Welcome back to the Cleveland Baseball Talk podcast. I'm Joe Noga, joined by Paul Hoynes. Hoynes, the Guardians, a little bit of a sense of hope over the weekend. A couple of nice wins against the Mariners, and then losers of the last two. They dropped the final game of the Mariners series and the opener of the Boston series on Labor Day in Boston. Kind of a weird situation there at Fenway Park. Fenway Park always known for its weird situations, I guess. The home run by Trevor Story that sort of bounced off of Jhonkensy Noel's glove, hit the foul pole, and just a weird scene, a weird situation there in Fenway. What'd you see from the press box when Trevor Story hit that game-changing home run for the Red Sox?
You hit the nail on the head, Joe. It was a strange home run in a quirky ballpark, and it kind of reminded me of what in 1993 when Carlos Martinez hit a home run off Jose Canseco's head at the old ballpark in Cleveland. It was one of those weird things that you don't see happen often. I thought Noel gave it a good try. Went up into the in front of the pole, had the ball. Then his glove hit a kid in the head, a little like a young boy in the head. The ball came out of the glove and it ricocheted off the pole. And it took him a while to sort things out. It was in the press box. It was ruled a ground rule double. On the field, it was originally called a foul ball, and then the Red Sox challenged, and it was overturned and called a home run. So just a weird play.
Yeah, bottom line, looking at the replay and looking at the one angle where you can definitively see the ball hit Noel's glove and then hit the foul pole. Bottom line, replay got it right. It's unfortunate for the Guardians that they did get it right. Was Stephen Vogt upset about the timing of things, or that the Red Sox were allowed to challenge after the time had expired in that situation? What was his feeling on that?
He said they got it right. He didn't seem to be too upset about that. He said their replay guy checked it out and that they made the right call. And he has hit a home run off Pesky's hole during his playing career. So I don't know if he had an affinity for that one or not, but it came back to hurt his ball club.
Yeah, I would say he would probably be, not so inclined to be in favor of that play at the moment if it costs his club. But Jhonkensy Noel being in the lineup at the time, he was actually he had pinch hit in the game and come in and played to play right field. He's one of three players that were added to the roster on September 1st. September call-ups. The roster expands by two. The Guardians added Noel and Zach Kent as a reliever who had been up. But we also got to see the major league debut of George Valera. How exciting was that for Valera and for the Guardians to finally get this guy out on the field in a major league game after years of him being a former top prospect and the journey that he's been on?
Yeah, it was good news for Valera. He was I don't think his feet hit the ground. He was floating around Fenway Park. He DH'd yesterday. His debut was a short one. He drew a walk in his only at bat, and then he was pinch hit for. But he was really happy, Joe. This is a guy that he said on Saturday night when the Columbus Clippers were in Louisville, he was praying that he was asking the big guy upstairs, when is this going to happen? I'd really like to make my big league debut this year. And he said before he got done praying, he got the phone call that he was coming up. So kind of a cool story. And hopefully George can stay healthy for one thing, the main thing, and get some at bats here and show people what he can do, because we've certainly we've heard a lot of him.
Yeah, and we'd seen him in spring training. He'd gone through all the exhibitions. He'd played in the Futures game. He's been a top prospect for so long, but like you said, the injuries are what's held him back. Sounds like a familiar pattern for these Guardians and their top outfield prospects. George Valera, obviously, he's had hamstring issues. He's had hamate bone surgery. Every time it seems like he's been poised to make the jump to the big leagues and sort of continue that development. There's been another roadblock thrown up in his face to the point where they had to release him and then re-sign him, I believe, in the offseason as he was dealing with knee surgery.
Yeah, exactly right, Joe. And the knee surgery was probably the worst of the injuries. He had come back up last year. He was really playing well. I think he had 17 home runs, drove in 50 RBIs in a limited amount of playing time, and then he ruptured the patella tendon in his right knee, making a play against the outfield wall, and that ended his season and it seemed to end his career with Cleveland, but they brought him back. And he is in the big leagues now. So, this is his chance. Hopefully, he gets some at bats. Stephen Vogt, the manager, said he'll see most of his at bats out of the DH spot against right-handed pitching.
Yeah, and you've already got a CJ Kayfus. You've already got, obviously Kyle Manzardo is getting some at bats. You've got David Fry as a DH. You've got John Kenzie Noel now up with him, ostensibly to play against left-handers. There's a lot of bodies to consider and a lot of, finagling, I guess, that needs to be done to get guys at bats. So really, how much can we expect to see of Valera over these next, 26 games or so?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see a whole bunch. I think maybe if he gets 20 at bats, that would be good for him. I think that's probably as much as you can expect. Another kind of interesting point, Joe. They're going to play Noel at first base. I guess he was playing a lot of first base at Columbus. And, they really needed, kind of a right-handed bat to help balance all those lefties. So, we'll see him get some time not only in right field, but at first base as well.
Yeah, that's something that that the organization values sort of in concert with that positional versatility is roster balance and having enough right-handed bats to play when they need to. You look at Angel Martinez and his ability to be a switch hitter. That sort of helps as well. That's the extra right-handed bat there in that that's available to Stephen Vogt off the bench or if he's starting in center field.
Yeah, definitely. And it was interesting yesterday, Joe, with both Boston and Cleveland's lineups. Cleveland's lineup, counting switch hitters, had 9 left-handed hitters in there against their starting pitcher, Brian Bellio, and the Red Sox countered with 8 right-handed hitters, counting switch hitters against rookie Parker Messick, a left-hander.
Yeah, Messick, obviously he was really good in his first 2 outings. A bit more of a struggle in his third outing. Not a lot of fun for a left-hander, particularly a rookie left-hander at Fenway Park.
No, he ran into a buzzsaw, so to speak, Joe. He gave him 3 2/3 innings, kind of grinded it out. He kind of paid a price. Boston reached him for 9 hits, 3 runs. He walked a couple guys. He slipped off the mound on a balked home a run. So it was not the Parker Messick we saw against Tampa Bay and Arizona, that calm, cool, poised rookie. And Joe, I think that was to be expected. That's a big stage at Fenway Park. They've got the second wild card spot. It's a sellout crowd, and the Boston fans don't let you forget it either. And he enjoyed the experience. He said it was cool to be out there, and he just wished he could have got a little deeper into the game.
Yeah, it doesn't help when your all-star, 7-time all-star, a third baseman is mired in probably his worst slump in a couple of seasons we've seen him. Jose Ramirez not looking like Jose Ramirez right now at the plate.
No, not at all, Joe. 7 for 53. No pop. I think he's got 3 extra base hits in that stretch. I don't know if he's hurt or if he's tired, but he just doesn't look like himself. He's not making hard contact, and when he does, it's right at somebody. He just he's looks anxious to me at the plate. He's jumping at the ball.
Yeah, 7 for 53 slump over the last several games for Jose.
Yeah, 7 for 53. I think that's over the last 13, 14 games.
So certainly not what we're used to seeing. But on the flip side of that, Stephen Kwan had a nice game Monday in Boston and really has looked like he's gotten back on track. Just the volume of hits that he's been able to put up.
Yeah, he is. He's really playing well. Had a great weekend series against Seattle, defensively and offensively. He drove in the game-winning run on Friday and Saturday night. Made an unbelievable catch Saturday night, Joe, against our old buddy Josh Naylor, and on a warning track. It kind of reminded me, Joe, of the catch Kwan made against the Rockies at Coors Field a couple years ago. But he was going the other way. He was going toward the left the foul line that way, and this way he was going into the gap. Just as Kyle Manzardo said, he Supermaned it. Yeah, I mean, on is 11 3. He had a 3-hit game yesterday. It should add that's his 11th 3-hit game of the season.
Yeah, and you talk about the defense that he showed over the weekend. It wasn't just the amazing catch; it was also a couple of throws that he made, and just being in position to keep runners from advancing and taking bases. This is a guy that Superman catch will be the one that they show as a highlight when he wins his fourth consecutive Gold Glove. I don't think there's any doubt right now that he wins that Gold Glove in left field for the American League this year. And when that happens, the price tag goes even higher for him. Certainly when he's going through his arbitration process, and the Guardians will definitely have to pay for that, and we'll see if how that factors into any sort of long-term contract discussions in spring training. Over the weekend, we did hear about Luis Ortiz and Emmanuel Clase, and the case against them it's looking more and more like they're definitely not going to pitch at all the rest of this season. Major League Baseball coming back and saying that they've extended the suspension and the investigation indefinitely, and we've heard language like that before in other cases like this.
Yeah, the term was until further notice that their paid leave, non-disciplinary leave will continue. And Joe, I from the people I've talked to, they have said that makes them ineligible for the rest of the season. And I would think that's the way it'll work out. But the MLB did not set a definite timetable on this, so you never know what's going to happen. But if I would think that the last thing they want to do right now is have a gambling scandal down the stretch, when you've got some exciting races going on, and then when you carry it into the postseason. So I would imagine we might not hear about this thing ending until maybe December, maybe the turn of the year, Joe. I just don't see them doing it during the World Series. Do you, or the postseason?
No, I agree. I think maybe December might be a good date just to know that they would have it wrapped up before the winter meetings or sometime around that, because at some point you're sort of hamstringing the Guardians in terms of what they can do organizationally. Do they have this flexibility or not, with or without Clase and Ortiz in the mix? Do you go shopping for a closer or a reliever or a starter at the winter meetings based on what their availability is going to be? To me, it seems like no other franchise would be put in that position. They kind of know that the Guardians aren't big spenders in that regard, so you certainly wouldn't take away Boston or New York's ability to go out and sign a free agent closer at the winter meetings if this investigation had to go on beyond that. So I've got to imagine it would be wrapped up before then. In talking to Chris Antonetti on Friday, got the indication that even if by some last second miracle, 3-pointer at the buzzer, that these guys were able to come back to the team, there's no way they would be ready to pitch at all by this season, because they haven't been throwing in games. They haven't been built up. I would imagine it would take several rehab appearances, and you just don't have the time to do that between now and the end of the season.
Yeah, good point, Joe. And also, since they weren't on the 40-man roster on September 1st, they're not eligible for the postseason. Even
Right.
if should Cleveland sneak in the back door on this thing. So, just a bad situation all the way around for Cleveland and for Clase and Ortiz. And they've got to keep paying these guys too. How long did
Yeah,
they keep paying Clase? I mean, Ortiz's
that's the other
contract.
thing.
Yeah, I mean, so the Guardians just get stuck with the bill on these guys.
Yeah, that sort of set off an alarm in my head when you were reading through the language of this the suspension, or the information from Major League Baseball was, well, yeah, they do have to still pay them, and obviously Class A's contract is a lot more, but you're talking about an organization that the money does count. It does make a difference. We're talking about the guys that they were trying to find somebody to pick up the final $2 million on Carlos Santana's contract at the end of the year, so they didn't have to pay that. It's not that they're being, cheap or frugal or anything like that, but, they're paying for services that are not being rendered basically right now. And that's not fair to the Guardians. And you got to keep that sort of in the back of the mind too, as they move forward. Speaking of moving forward, they're in the middle of a stretch of 17 games in 17 days. I think they've got like 13, 14 left in that stretch. One of the ways that you can get around some of the burden of that on your pitching staff is by possibly looking at a six-man rotation. What have you learned about what the Guardians' approach to a six-man rotation is?
Yeah, Stephen Vogt said, that is one of the options that they've been talking about. When they opened this series against the Red Sox, they hadn't named a starter for tonight's game or Wednesday's game. Now, it's since been learned, Slade Ciccone is going to start tonight, but they still haven't named a starter for Wednesday. And I think that all involves trying to, maybe, I don't know if you put do you go with a bullpen game? Do you try to move some of these starters around who are, reaching their seasonal innings limits? Do you try to give them an extra day here or there? So they're jockeying the rotation right now, Joe, just to see who needs some more rest, who might be, can go on a regular turn. Yeah, and John Means, I think, who pitched over the weekend, another rehab start, probably figures into this at some point, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, is John Means a possibility for that spot? He pitched on Saturday. The game on Wednesday is the last game of the series in Boston, and then there's an off. They go right into the series in
Yeah.
Tampa Bay on Thursday. So, uh, who knows what they're thinking there if they insert Means. He pitched 4 innings, gave up 1 earned run in Columbus's last game, I believe, against Louisville. Just as far as your experience with this team going to a six-man rotation, they've been resistant to it for so long,
Yeah.
particularly under Terry Francona.
Yeah, they did not want to do a six-man rotation, and I'm not really sure why that the reasoning was. I think they didn't want to upset their maybe the 1 and 2 guys, the first and second starters, and put them on instead of 4 and 5 days rest, 6, 7, or 8 days rest. They didn't want to do that and disrupt them. Now I don't know if they feel the same way about, let's say, Tanner Bybee and Gavin Williams. I mean, do they need rest? Williams certainly didn't look like he needed any rest his last time out. And Bybee went into the 7th inning, I believe, on Sunday against Seattle. So they both look strong. So I'm not sure exactly what they're going to do, but we should find out a little more today, Joe.
And, as far as what it would mean in terms of Logan Allen, Parker Messick, those guys, you don't want to keep the sort of the intensity or the innings up, through the end of the. You want to sort of taper them. In years past, you've seen that they pull guys after the 5th inning or so, just to keep that innings limit low. And you don't want to burn out guys at the end of the year. The benefits that you'll see come back in spring training, come back in, the early part of next season when they're not tired, when they're ready to go. Yeah, this is not the 2017 Cleveland rotation that had 4 or 5 guys that went 200 innings and everybody stayed in the rotation all season long. There were, everybody made every start, which was sort of a miracle that year that they were able to do that. This is it's definitely a different game at this point for Major League Baseball.
No doubt about it. And they've really done a good job, I think, Joe, managing the innings of the rotation and the bullpen. You would think, with the way they've really kind of lengthened this rotation out. But they're still right in the middle of the pack innings pitch wise. It's not like they're being overused. And the bullpen, I know they've shuffled a lot of guys in and out of there, but the bullpen is right in the middle too. It hasn't been pushed as much as it was last year.
Right. Yeah. Last year they were pushed to the limit in terms of their bullpen use, and the guys responded and took him to the ALCS. Gabriel Arias got knocked out of the lineup on Friday when he was hit by a pitch in the hand. He's missed a couple of games, but he looks to be back in there at some point in this Boston series.
Yeah, I think you'll see him in the lineup tonight, Joe. He really took a good whack on the wrist when he got hit by that pitch over the weekend. X-rays were negative, but he was out. He was out, fielding ground balls, throwing yesterday, taking BP. Vogt said he's ready, so that should help their defense. But certainly, you don't miss much with Rocchio at shortstop.
Right. Rocchio, having a really strong second half of the season, tied with Kyle Manzardo, 24 RBIs since the All-Star break for the team lead. Manzardo, again, another home run yesterday. This is a guy now, sort of he and Rocchio definitely in the second half, are the real stories of this team at the plate.
Yeah, he just crushed that ball last night, Joe. Hit it out to the triangle in center field at Fenway Park. And I don't know who he was pointing to. When he hits a home run, he kind of points, but he was pointing out. It looked like he was pointing out to the bullpen or something. I'm not sure, but he crushed that ball. He's on fire, Joe. I think I don't know if this is the real Kyle Manzardo, if he's just on a hot streak, but he looks like a legitimate number 4, number 5 hitter right now, and he's fun to watch. He really is.
Yeah.
And that was
I
against
was
a lefty too. That was off a left-hander too.
And he's going to get more at bats against lefties, which is nice. It's something that Stephen Vogt said. I was having a conversation over the weekend, and somebody who was sort of upset that they had even signed Carlos Santana in the first place at the beginning of the season. Why not just give Manzardo the job, full time out of the gate and see what develops. And the thought occurred to me, Carlos Santana being in Cleveland for as long as he was this season sort of helped Kyle Manzardo ease into and grow into what he has become right now. And it's a guy who's, going to be close to hitting 30 home runs in the big leagues in his first full season. I think they handled Kyle Manzardo pretty much exactly the right way you needed to in terms of bringing him along this season to being a guy that now you're sort of relying on in the middle of that lineup.
Yeah, that's a good point, Joe. And he still has work to do, defensively. We both know that. He's got a ways to go as a defensive first baseman. If you're going to hit 25 to 30 home runs, they'll live with that.
Yeah, they'll find a place for you. I'm sure that's always going to be the case. All right, Hoynes, that's going to wrap up today's edition of the Cleveland Baseball Talk podcast. We will check in with you after Game 2 against Boston tomorrow.
Good deal.